Redline Logbook here to talk about the Zeus Familia. As you can imagine, the Zeus Familia starts with Zeus, but it actually starts with Zeus all the way up in heaven. For thousands of years, Zeus watched the heroes and on their journeys doing all kinds of heroic deeds. For thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, he continued to watch these heroes do what they do until eventually he decided he wanted to be a part of it. And so, 1,000 years ago, he ascended down to the mortal realm. He ended up becoming one of the two founders of Aurario. Uranos ended up becoming basically the leader of Urano by creating the guild, the governing body, while Zeus, on the other hand, decided to establish a Familia who was basically the military force of Aurario. Because Zeus's Familia ended up being the first, it ended up being the one with the most power and authority for basically the majority of Aurorio's existence. And quite simply, the Zeus Familia was a very benevolent rulers over Aurario. Zeus, while a pervert and somewhat of a prankster, actually was quite loving towards the mortal races. He was one of the very few gods who truly respected and cherished them to the point where his only goal in life was basically to just share his life with them and legitimately make a better world for them. To make this more clear, when it came to his Familia, he was quite open about how it ran things. So for most Familias, they actively keep secrets on their members' skills, magic abilities, etc., so this way they don't reveal any weaknesses they might have. The Zeus Familia was the complete opposite. For those 1,000 years of going through the dungeon, much of the mapping was done by the Zeus Familia, and it was shared to the guild, which then of course was able to share that with the masses. The Zeus Familia even explained how do you get development abilities and such whenever you go through the dungeon, so this way people could min-max basically. They would happily share any information they had that would make it easier for adventurers to survive, basically, even if it meant basically revealing their hand. And this was Zeus's policy because, once again, Zeus wanted to help everyone, not just his own Familia. Quite simply, if you have a guild advisor, much of the information they have that they are able to give to you is thanks to the Zeus Familia. There's chances are that most adventurers are alive because of the Zeus Familia. When it came down to it, the Zeus Familia were juggernauts compared to everyone else. They made officially to the 59th floor. Unofficially, they had members that made it all the way to the 71st floor. Because of these unofficial trips to deeper floors, we don't actually know anything about them. But Zeus, once again, was happy to share everything with his friend Uranos. So most likely, the guild just kept whatever that was seen secret. Going how deep they went to the dungeon is only an example of just how powerful they were. To put into perspective just how overwhelmingly powerful the Zeus Familia was, there were plenty of gods who would team up together to try to take down Zeus for the 1,000-year period. They all wanted to sit on the throne. There was once an alliance between Set, Sebek, and Osiris, and they were completely annihilated. Osiris basically got banished, and the other two became minor factions within Aurario. As for the memberships of the Familia, obviously 1,000 years gives you who knows how many adventurers could have been a part of the Zeus Familia, but we do know of roughly 3. The first one would be the last captain of the Zeus Familia. His name was Maxim. Other than that, we actually don't know anything about him. We don't know his personality, we don't know what he looked like. We do know, actually, he was a level 8, which is the second highest level we've ever seen in all of Danmachi. He was basically referred to as the pinnacle of strength amongst Aurario, and he was the representation of the wall that the Freya and Loki Familias just couldn't get over. Finn, Garth, and Otter would challenge this man all the time, and he would just backhand them. It wasn't even a fight, it was just him basically beating them down and then saying, hey, come at me anytime you want. We'll just keep going if you don't feel like it. The second man we know of is Bel's father, whose name we do not know. All we know about him is that he apparently was a coward and a pervert. So whenever a fight started, he was basically the first one to run away. Bel basically inherited his ability to run away from danger pretty damn quickly. He also apparently had red eyes, and that's where Bel got his. He's apparently looked down upon by many of the executives in the Zeus and Hera Familia as nothing more than a filthy supporter. But at the same time, they still loved him, and he was still a member of their family. Zeus, on the other hand, the two of them apparently were very close friends. The two of them would go off and spy on women while they were bathing. With that being said, the man must have some sense of charm to him, because once again, Zeus liked him, and also he convinced Bel's mother to fall in love. As for the member that we know the most about, it would be Zard. We actually have quite a bit of information about him, because he was one of the main antagonists of the Australia Record novel series. Starting with his personality, Zard is actually pretty stoic as a human being. Tough, strong, dependable. He was basically treated as a elderly male role model for the Zeus Familia. And of course the Hera Familia, which the Zeus Familia was very close to. He's basically spent much of his time, of course, being the vanguard of the Familia's battle force, but also basically taking care of everyone. In fact, his relationship with Althea, who is an executive of the Hera Familia, the two of them have very much a uncle and niece relationship, where she would basically behave like a child in a way, and he would basically just do as she asked. No questions asked, really. Apparently, the man was also an amazing chef as well. He can cook pretty much anything. Almost any dish that you could ask for, he'd do it for you. So yeah, he had a very outwards gruff attitude, but inward very warm and very kind. Strength-wise, the man had a ton of fucking stats. At level 7, his strength was S999, so he maxed it out. His endurance was also S999. His dexterity was S902. His agility was C673. Magic was D515. And then he had his abilities, which were Hunter D, Abnormal Resistance E, Crush F, Strong Body F, Supreme Fist I. Since he held the role as Vanguard, basically his job was to be the meat shield to protect the rest of the Familia. His strength and durability are the top of his abilities. When it comes to his durability, his body is somehow harder and stronger than his armor that he wears. And to put into perspective just how hard that armor is, it is so dense and heavy that if a normal adventurer wore it, it would crush them to death. When attacked by Alan when Alan was a level 5, a full-speed spear thrust, he was able to block the attack by just putting up his hand. That's right, the gauntlet that he was wearing for his armor was able to block an attack from a level 5 with 0 damage. His strength was just as absurd. When he first confronted Otter in Australia Record, his first swing of his sword was able to shake Aurorio. Shaki actually thought an earthquake was going on. In their second fight, the collisions of their swords between Otter and Zard were actually causing shockwaves throughout all Aurorio. His speed gets even more absurd than that, because it has been stated that he is faster than the Juggernaut if it was spawned on floor 70. Now, the stats of the Juggernaut are determined based on how deep it spawns in the dungeon. The deeper it is, the stronger it will be. Here's the thing. The Juggernaut spawned on floor 27. This Juggernaut was faster than Bell at this time. The same Bell, who was a level 4, who didn't just max out all of his speed stats at lower levels. No, he exceeded. He broke the limiter. He was triple S at level 1, 2, and 3 at speed when he fought the Juggernaut, and the Juggernaut was still faster. And if you think this is a minor thing, to put this into perspective, when Bell was a level 3, he was so fast that he could outrun Aisha and the other Amazons, who are also level 3s, to a point where they couldn't even see him anymore. The only Amazon that was able to catch up to him was Franny, because the woman was a level 5. So at level 3, Bell had a level 5 speed, and a level 4 Bell was slower than the Juggernaut. That means a Juggernaut spawned more than 30 floors deeper would be able to speed blitz Bell, and he would never even be able to see it. And Zard is faster than that. Zard gets even more absurd, because he has magic. The magic is called Ria Asmariosa. It basically coats his sword in flames and allows him to basically obliterate an entire battlefield with one swing of his sword. That's right, this man can one-shot armies with his magic. The spell chant goes, "Forgive me, Father God, for partaking of this banquet of the god. Hunter and entrapping tongue of flames, devour all. Fangs of the scorching heat." So you can actually decode a person's personality based on what their magic chant is. For his, it mentions fire and devouring, and also the importance of God. Those are the three key things. Fire is the fact that it's a fire spell. The God part is that Zard may not act like it sometimes, but he truly respected Zeus. And the third is devouring, because this man has a skill. He actually has 3 skills, but we actually don't know what 2 of them do. First one is called Alquistria. We don't know what it does. The second one is Nagel Gourmet. Also don't know what it does. But the third one, Des Embara. This skill is absurd. He is able to consume people, monsters, animals, minerals, rare items, whatever. And depending on how much he consumed and what the quality of he consumed was, it gives him a massive power boost. Zard was a level 7. If he consumed the right amount of the right materials, he could boost himself to a level 9. So all those insane power feats I talked about before, his strength, his durability, his speed, his magic, that's all at level 7. If he boosts himself to a level 9, he's significantly more powerful. He's a fucking demigod. The funny thing is that we actually didn't get to see him at his strongest. And the reason for that is because of the 3 grand quests. Now, the Zeus Familia, just like how he wished to make the dungeon safer for all adventurers by giving out information, he wanted to make the world safer by eliminating the 3 greatest threats to the world. So Zeus's targets were the king of the land, Behemoth, the king of the seas, Leviathan, and the king of the skies, the Black Dragon. The Zeus and the Hera Familia combined were able to take down the Behemoth, which is a giant monster that lives in the desert, whose skin oozes a poison that can rot and destroy everything, and whose massive strength can crush and annihilate everything that stands before it. Basically, no life survives anywhere near this thing. Not animal, not monster, not plant, nothing. And it was a powerful monster. It was so strong that Zard had to consume the flesh of the Behemoth to increase his power enough to then kill the Behemoth. Now, doing this, of course, allowed them to win, but it also meant he consumed poison. A powerful poison. Now, because of Zard's ability, he's very resistant to anything he consumes, but not this. This was just too much, and he was slowly dying. His organs were literally melting inside of him. But even as he was dying, the job wasn't done, so they went on and took on the Leviathan. Once again, it was the Zeus and Hera Familia, but this time Poseidon's Familia helped out, and they successfully killed the Leviathan by using Althea's ultimate magic. And so they took on the final quest, the one-eyed Black Dragon, and they were annihilated. Apparently, they didn't even harm the creature. That's how powerful it was. It completely annihilated both the Hera and Zeus Familias, and it crushed their will. Any sense they had of any hope of winning died with them. The only survivors of this battle were Zard of the Zeus Familia and Althea of the Hera Familia. So the two of them then decided to go off and live peacefully together, waiting for them to die. Zard because of his organs melting, and Althea because she suffered from a disease. They had no interest in trying to regain their glory or anything like that. They didn't care. They were just ready to die. That is until they were discovered by the god Erebus. Erebus decided to give them an offer in exchange for giving up their lives, that they would create a new era, one that would allow the next generation of heroes to defeat the Black Dragon. They completely agreed to this, didn't even hesitate really. Even when Erebus kept asking them, are they really okay with this? Because they will be hated forever. They'll be known as villains for the rest of their lives, no longer heroes. Zard didn't care. Zard's opinion was that his legacy meant nothing to him. All that mattered was the future and what the future could hold. He was willing to sacrifice everything for that future, including his own pride and legacy. And so his final battle he had was with Otter. So him and Otter basically went all out. Otter went into beastification mode. Zard wasn't actually able to consume anything to become more powerful. Organs melting after all. But yeah, he had his one final fight. They had their final clash and Zard lost. And then lied there and died. This was the end of the Zeus Familia. Yeah, so 15 years prior to the current story, or 5 years before Zard's death, the Zeus and Hera Familia, because they were decimated by the Black Dragon, were chased out of Aurorio by Loki and Freya. The fact of the matter was that, once again, many gods have been trying to usurp that throne for a long time, but none succeeded until there was no Familia left for Zeus and Hera to even fight back with. And the guild couldn't help, because no matter how much good Zeus did for them, no matter how close friends he was with Uranus, the fact of the matter is that they were no longer valuable to the safety of the world or securing the dungeon. The people with the power now were Hera and Loki, and so Zeus peacefully left. He decided to live not too far from Aurorio, actually. He lives in a small village on one of the mountains. A year after the battle with the Black Dragon and the banishment of Zeus, a woman showed up with her child. She was dying, and of course, this was Bel and his mother. She handed Bel over to Zeus so he could raise him, and for the next 13 years, Zeus was the adopted grandfather of Bel. And he basically taught Bel 3 important lessons. 1, heroes are cool. 2, women are the greatest thing that ever existed. And 3, to be a true man, you must have your own will. You can't be controlled by others, not even the gods. Then when Bel turned 13, he faked his own death, pretended to fall off a cliff to never be seen again, and is currently just watching over Bel using Hermes as a messenger to see what's going on. And that is the story of the Zeus Familia. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you enjoy more Danmachi and other anime things. Thank you and have a great day.